Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of West News on this Friday, October 23rd of 2015. Since we've begun a new term this week, you might have had to find new classrooms or navigate a new path to get to your current classes. So we're going to start things off with a tour of the building to refresh our memories. As we come in through the front entrance, we have the office to the right and the 6th grade hallway to the left. Let's go there. On our way, we'll pass Mrs. Grant in room 15, Mrs. Smith in room 14, Mrs. Siderwitz in room 16, and Miss Collier in room 17. Next door to her is Miss DeWitt in room 18. Just down the hall is Mrs. Bain in room 19, Miss Goodnight in room 20, Mr. Deckard in room 21, and Mrs. Majonier and Mrs. Huff in room 22. A little further down, we'll find Mrs. Midla in room 26, and Mrs. Allenson right across the hall in room 24. Next to Mrs. Allenson is Mr. Collier in room 25. As we continue on, we'll make our way to the music hallway. You'll find Mr. Miller and his band classes in room 27, and Mrs. Shover's choir classes in room 28. Mr. Korth's orchestra also meets in those rooms. If you ever need to visit our speech therapist, Mr. Rust, you'll find him here in room 29B. Next door is Mrs. Sawyer's in room 29, and across the hall in room 30 is Miss Armstrong. On the other side of the crosswalk, you'll find Mr. Moore and Mr. Siderwitz in room 32A and B, and Mr. Allenson's art class in room 31 right across the hall. As we continue around the corner, we'll end up at room 1A, where you'll find Mrs. Arnold's technology lab. As we head down the cafeteria hallway, we'll find Senora Rapp in room 2, Mr. Huff in room 3, Mrs. Carpenter and Mrs. Spina in room 4, and one of the cafeteria entrances across the hall. In room 5, you'll find Mrs. Harden and a computer lab in room 6. And there's another entrance to the cafeteria across the hall. If you take a right at this junction, you'll head down a short hallway where you'll find Miss Dehoff, our librarian and media specialist, Miss Schulteis, our school psychologist, and Mrs. Voland, our attendance secretary, all in the library. If we head back the way we came and take a right, we'll run into Mrs. Richardson in room 7. Next door to her is Mr. Dean in room 8, and Ms. Wood in room 9. On down the hall is Mr. Trump in room 10, and Mrs. English in room 12. And you'll find Ms. Wiley in room 13. And with that, we're back at the front entrance. If you take a right at the front entrance, you'll get to the office where you'll find Dean of Students and Athletic Director Mrs. Staley, Principal Mrs. Lips, Guidance Counselor Mrs. Selch, and Instructional Coach Mrs. Gibney. Now we'll take a left outside the office doors, go past the cafeteria, and head to the G-Wing. But before we get there, we'll go by another computer lab in room 1, Mr. Smith, that's me, in room 1C, and Mrs. Haggard and Mrs. Lee across the hall in the clinic. If we keep going this way past the activity posters and then swing a right, we'll come to Mrs. Schaefer in room G3. Next door in room G2 is Mr. Lindsay. On down past the lockers is Mr. Payne in room G1. Now we'll turn around and head back the way we came, take a right, and find the entrance to the gym. If you go through this door, you'll find Mr. Contreras' and Mr. Moore's gym classes. If we go back through that door and take a right, we'll end up at Mrs. Meadows' room, room G4. And now we go back. We'll wind our way through the halls, back to the front, and out the doors to where you'll get on your bus at the end of the day and head home. And now let's check out what's been going on. Artesian Cross Country placed 6th overall in the Junior Mid-State Conference meet on Wednesday the 7th. Top finishers for the girls were Katie Reeves, Tara Nova Zyke, Justina Dent, Madeline Summers, Jessie Miller, Megan Martin, and Bailey Metcalf. Top finishers for the boys were Carson Heath taking 2nd place, Caden Rottenkrantz, Austin Vandegrift, Eli Roberson, Carter Lyon, Gabe Lewis, and Blake Holloway. Coach Crismore said this was one of the most enjoyable seasons. The team worked very hard all season, and he's looking forward to the upcoming track season in March. On Thursday the 8th, 8th grade volleyball battled Plainfield in the Junior Mid-State Conference Championship match. The girls won in 2 games, 25-16 and 25-18, boosting their record to 14-3 on the season and becoming back-to-back Junior Mid-State champs. Paige Dorsett and Lauren Knox had a great night serving. Maya Chandler, Marlena Kemp, Christina McCowan, and Samantha Croy played great at the net, and Jersey Tannehill and Sydney Wolf played great defense. Coach Britton said she's so proud of all the girls for accomplishing the goal they set forth at the beginning of the season. She went on to say they worked so hard all season and they definitely deserve this trophy. And also that night, 7th and 8th grade football took on Decatur Central in the final battle of the season. The 8th grade A team fell to the Hawks 28-34, and the B team was also defeated. Coach Helms said he'd like to thank all the players for an outstanding season. They worked extremely hard all year and made the coaching staff very proud. And now here's what's coming up at West Middle. On Wednesday the 28th, West Middle is hosting the Spell Bowl Invitational in the gym starting at 6 o'clock. Student Council will be hosting their annual Halloween dance in the gym after school on the 29th. The cost of admission is $5, but if you wear a Halloween costume, it's only $4. And the sign-up date for a trip to our nation's capital has been extended. 8th grade students from Bell East and West Middle Schools are invited to register for the Washington, D.C. trip until October 31st, 2015. This year's trip will be from May 14th to the 16th of 2016. Use trip ID number 117496 to sign up. A non-refundable deposit of $99 is required. If there are more questions, call World Stride's customer service team at 1-800-468-5899. Information packets are being passed out to students and are available in the front offices and libraries of both middle schools. And that's it for me. Don't forget you can follow West Middle on Twitter at WestArtyPride. And you can see this episode as well as previous episodes and other videos at youtube.com/WestMiddleNews. And while you're there, you might as well subscribe to our channel. And as always, if you have any ideas, suggestions, or announcements for West News, let us know. Hey, I'm Mr. Smith. Thanks for watching. Have a great Friday and an even greater weekend.